Congratulations to the Evansville MPO. They've been recognized with the Outstanding Planning Project Award for their partnership with WNIN and the production of Healthy Air, Healthy Communities.
Our community is very blessed to have as many attractions as we have for the size of the city we have.
If you want to travel to a populated area, a city, there are a lot of choices where you can choose a destination that has a well-established public transportation system.
With more students walking to school, it will ultimately reduce the amount of vehicles on the street. It will reduce the amount of pollution that's created. It would just create a better environment, I think, for everybody around the school and community.
Funding provided by the U.S. Department of Transportation CMAQ program.
Thanks for joining us for Healthy Air, Healthy Communities. In the show today, we're taking a look at school programs that encourage kids to walk or bike to school and vacation planning with efficiency in mind. When you're planning a vacation, there are a few obvious questions to consider, like where should I go and how should I get there? Here are just a few things to contemplate while you plan your escape. When you're picking a place to vacation, why don't you try to choose a place that doesn't require using a car?
There's so many places that you can go, and if you don't want a car, you can just settle in a hotel in the city center and really just do a lot of day trips and a lot of walking from there.
If you want to travel to a populated area, a city, there are a lot of choices where you can choose a destination that has a well-established public transportation system. And you know, one of the best cities that I think of, for example, is Washington, D.C. You can easily travel to Washington, D.C. and not need to use a personal vehicle at all. And there are other cities also that, you know, New York City, for example, has a good public transportation system. So that's always a good way to try to use the infrastructure that's in place.
London is a beautiful big city with a lot of walking options. There's so much to see and do in a fairly small area. But if you're doing it in the winter, you know, it's going to be cold and you may not want to do that. If you're going to Paris, you might do something different in the summer than you would in the winter because of the temperatures.
This certainly is a personal favorite of mine, is to select a destination that in fact gets away from some of the demands of the use of fossil fuels and leaving a carbon footprint, and that's some of the natural areas where you can camp, you can use a tent and a sleeping bag and avoid needing to drive to see sights. You can walk to see sights.
Any place you've got a lot of natural resources to interest the people, they are usually very eco-friendly. There are several tour companies that specialize in the walking tours, and again, it could be in the United States, it could be in Europe, it could be in South America. It depends on how active the traveler is and the level of walking that they want to do, whether it's just day trips from their hotel and back, or if they're going to be walking to get from point A to point B. You know, those can be, you could be walking anywhere from 5 to 20 miles a day. There are bicycle vacations. I do have one traveler that does that, and he's doing that in Europe this summer. So they provide the bike, and it's structured because you've got a group and you've got an itinerary to follow, but they provide the bikes and you just pedal your way from point A to B and continue on, and that's fun. It's not for everybody, but for those that like biking, it's very popular. There are a lot of all-inclusive resorts where you get to your destination, you unpack, and you don't leave. There's just so much they can do without ever leaving the resort, and they don't need a car. So that appeals to a lot of people. Cruises, there are so many options, and it seems like each major cruise line is coming out with one new ship a year, and they make the ship the destination.
Once you've picked your destination, how should you get there?
Globally, the use of liquid fossil fuels, and the single greatest user is transportation. And that encompasses the entire spectrum of automobile, truck, bus, rail, motorcycle, airplane, boat travel. But all those things together are the single greatest consumer of liquid fossil fuels. The advancement of technology has resulted in increased efficiency. So newer equipment tends to use less petroleum, less fossil fuels. And then of course, if you can pack that vehicle with passengers that all have a similar destination in mind, that, you know, if you're driving around with one person in a car, if you just add one more person, you're doubling the efficiency. If you say single passenger vehicle, SUV, motorcycle, truck, bus, train, or plane, the most efficient would be the train. On a countrywide scale, we don't have easy accessibility to train transportation. You often have to drive a number of hours before you could hop on a train and travel. It still would make it efficient if one is ready to be able to do that. Buses are also efficient. Unfortunately, if you look in the United States presently, most buses don't run at capacity. And because they're not at capacity, they're not nearly as efficient as they could be. Cars are near the bottom of the list, realistically. And there's a range of types of car. The average SUV is much less efficient than the average sedan, which is much less efficient than an average hybrid vehicle. The bottom of the list is a jet airplane. That's what kind of is the least efficient. Technology is improving the fuel efficiency of airline travel. If it's jam-packed and if it's a real fuel-efficient jetliner, it might actually beat the efficiency of an automobile, for example, for a cross-country trip. Cruises are a big rage right now. It's hard to come up with an average fuel efficiency number for cruise ships. Most of the evidence suggests that they, in fact, have one of the largest carbon footprints of any mode of travel, even airplanes. Having an awareness of how we travel and the kind of transportation we use truly can make a big impact on our carbon footprint and our carbon emissions.